Brown's major educational innovation is the open curriculum. And when it came out in the 1960s, it was groundbreaking. So when we started the strategic planning, we weren't thinking about how to change that. We were thinking about how to build on it and make it even better. In 1967 or 8, when Ira Magaziner and Elliot Maxwell were working on the new curriculum, there was no internet. Students rarely traveled abroad or did study abroad. The world is a very different place. And so we had a lot of fun thinking about how you can take the concept of the open curriculum and keep it fresh and keep it important in a world that looks very different. Brown has become an incredibly strong place for interdisciplinary research. And a lot of universities talk about their strength in interdisciplinary research. I think Brown does it better than anybody. So one of the things that we did as part of strategic planning was we collected a lot of data, looked at a lot of data on all the courses that Brown students had taken over the past 3 years. And you could see in those data just how widely students were using the curriculum. Students who were engineers were studying poetry, neuroscientists were studying history. And that's exactly what we want to see. One of the reactions that I got from people when I first came to Brown, people from outside of Brown would say, oh, that's the place where students don't work very hard. And the only response is, that's simply not true. You know, I see these students, they're passionate about their work. They throw themselves into it. And I see that on the other side when I'm talking to people who are bringing students into graduate programs. You know, I was talking to an alum not long ago who said that our neuroscience students are the best students that they're getting into their PhD programs. That says something. This is another thing that drew me to Brown, which is it's at the right scale. It's at the scale where I feel like as president I can make a difference. But I'm also not so far removed from the business of the university that I don't have a firsthand knowledge of what's going on. I have personal encounters that reinforce these values of wanting to do good in the world in creative new ways all the time. And I get them most often in my office hours. Just yesterday, 2 students come in. They're both first-generation college students. And they want to start a network, starting with Brown, but then building out to other Ivies and maybe other universities that both supports but also celebrates the experience as a first-generation college students. They were just terrific. In the same day, I had students who came in who wanted to start a political forum where students could come together and could debate not political issues as much as policy issues on a regular basis, with the idea that Brown should foster diversity of opinion on policy matters, right? So these were 2 students in just a single day. I mean, 2 groups of students in just a single day. And they come in and they're so varied and they're so wonderful and they all have great ideas. And then I see it reflected in the alumni. So it's not like these great ideas disappear upon graduation. Striking the balance between the constructive part of constructive irreverence and the irreverence part can be difficult. And it is a balancing act. So at Brown, we attract students who are fiercely passionate about social issues. And that's great. That's what we want. Sometimes it's difficult to maintain that sense of passion and at the same time maintain a sense of open-mindedness and tolerance for the viewpoints of others. Mary Woolley was one of the first 2 women to enroll at Brown, and she went on to become a notable peace activist as well as the president of Mount Holyoke, a big proponent of women's education. And if you read her inaugural address as president of Mount Holyoke, she very politely but very firmly makes it clear that women's intellectual development is important for its own sake. That women are not just to be educated in order to be better wives, mothers, and school teachers. And if you read that and you put it into historical context, you realize that she's saying something that is quite revolutionary. But she says it in a way that is just wonderful. You know, it is respectful, but it's clearly a break from the past. Andy Van Dam is a computer scientist. He teaches computer graphics, and the computer graphics industry is full of Andy Van Dam students. He's been teaching at Brown for years, and they love him. And it's reflected in the fact that in the movie Toy Story, the child Andy is named after Andy Van Dam. And several of the books that Andy Van Dam wrote are on the child Andy's bookshelf in the movie. I really love the Brown Band. And I love the Brown Band in part because my brother was in the Brown Band when he went to Brown. And I remember him coming home and telling stories about marching out on the field in jeans and t-shirts with peace medals on. And at the time I thought, wow, that's a really different kind of marching band. And so when I see them and I see, you know, they're very creative. They make up buttons for every game, and they're funny and irreverent, and I just love them.